Hello, my name is George. I am one of Synthesia's many stock avatars. That is, I am a computer-generated image and voice. I am also the narrator of this video version of the book, In Search of Competence and Uncommon Sense, written by Larry Markson. Larry wrote the book and this script in the first-person perspective, so it may sound like I am impersonating him. To be clear, I am absolutely not impersonating him. 100% of all the words I am speaking were written by him, including this disclaimer. That also includes my facial expressions. I am just narrating the book. Anyway, while you watch this video or listen to this as an audio book, keep in mind that I ain't him, or he ain't me, or, well, you get the picture. Also, if there's anything said that upsets you, don't blame us avatars. We just recite or narrate from a script. It's Larry's fault. This chapter will be blessedly brief. There will be no personal anecdotes, but be forewarned. As you may have already noticed, I can get preachy. Sun Tzu. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. And the consummate leader cultivates the moral law and strictly adheres to method and discipline. Mark Twain said, "Always do right. This will gratify some people and astonish the rest." Hippocratic Oath says, "I will prescribe regimens for the good of my patients according to my ability and my judgment, and never do harm to anyone." I had quite a difficult time coming up with the title for this chapter. I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't come up with a word that accurately reflected it. My choices were right thinking, moral thinking, and ethical thinking. But the problem is all three choices reflect relative behaviors. Politicians, based on their political affiliation, have different definitions of right thinking. Those who are or proclaim to be religious have usurped moral thinking, and within those different sects, there can be conflict over what is moral or not moral. Doctors and lawyers have some very different ideas as to what is ethical. So, I decided to redefine the term ethical thinking to more closely reflect my intent, and to leave no wiggle room by incorporating the sentiments of the aforementioned quotes. Ethical thinking. To consistently consider how one's actions can negatively affect others, always do right, be honest, and when possible, try to do no harm. That is much easier to say than to do. You can't always be honest when secrecy is legitimately needed for the good of the whole. For instance, our political leaders should not release military or intelligence information that can harm our military or intelligence sources, but some of them do. To adequately take care of our poor, we may have to lean on the rich more, not make them poor as well, but just expect and require more help from them. I can't stress enough how followers should always judge their leaders and potential leaders by these criteria. As former President Reagan said, "Trust, but verify." If followers would do that, we would not be constantly surprised by our sudden exposures of entities being vain, venal, corrupt, immoral, or unethical. We tend to ignore the negative signals we receive when someone says something we agree with. Not only that, but we frequently ignore what some have said or done in the past, and trust what they say in the present, as long as what they are currently saying tickles our fancy. Almost nothing is ever as it seems. The lack of honesty or real ethics, by my definition, is appalling. Don't be sanctimonious or self-righteous, and don't follow those who are either. It's not inclusive and is always a dead end. Remember a few chapters ago when I said the people who say, "Listen to me and trust me," are pushing an agenda on you. Unfortunately, even though this is the shortest chapter, it is also the only one that I can't be of much help with regard to your ethical compass. Ethics is a sliding bar. One may have to lie in order to uncover the truth. Or one might have to harm a few in order to help many. And who is to decide if the many are deserving, or if those same few are less deserving, or if the concept of deserving is even applicable? I'm obnoxious and opinionated, but I don't know. I only know I try to treat other people the way I wish to be treated. In other words, the golden rule. Well, listen to me. Trust me. See, I also have an agenda, and that agenda is to get people to trust but verify. Think about and check out everything you hear and read, including what I'm saying. Trust anyone you want, but verify everything that you hear or read so that you don't find yourself up a creek without a paddle. Finally, for all you budding wannabe leaders, as well as those of you who prefer to follow, I'm ending with 2 quotes that everyone should live by, and unfortunately, is observed by a paltry few, including me. Never argue with a fool. Onlookers may not be able to tell the difference. And it is easier to fool someone than it is to convince them they have been fooled. Both by Mark Twain. If you stand on the 3-legged leadership competence platform, and any one of those 3 legs, strategic thinking, analytical thinking, or ethical thinking, is weak or missing, your position as a leader is tenuous at best. Whoa, did you see that? I just tied it all together. I do love it when a plan comes together. The act of watching a strategy play out as planned is as much fun as the actual results, and the warm and fuzzies last much longer. Oh yeah, one last thing. At the beginning of the leadership chapter, I mentioned nearly all my supervisors have told me that I was a natural leader. Am I? Nah. I just make an effort to be very competent. Many people have followed me because I was the only competent person around, and they didn't really have an intelligent alternative. I am quick-tempered, obnoxious, frequently pedantic, and absolutely intolerant of the stubbornly stupid, the proudly ignorant, or dangerously incompetent. If you're ignorant of something, I only give you a limited number of chances and explanations before I dismiss you entirely as a completely irretrievable fool. I believe that while everyone is entitled to their own opinion, they are also obligated to be as accurate and correct as possible in their publicly expressed opinion. Otherwise, keep your opinion to yourself. Remember, if you remain silent, others may not find out just how foolish you really are. So no, I'm not a natural leader. I'm just pretty competent in some specific areas, with a burning desire to neither lead nor follow others, and a strong mistrust of people who think of themselves as leaders. While this book is about leadership and what it takes to make or judge a good leader, it is really about encouraging people to think and use their reasoning ability, instead of just being a parrot. A parrot may recite the preamble to the Constitution, but that doesn't mean it understands what it is reciting. I'm sorry. There is one final thing I feel that I must say. Regarding my anecdotes of insubordination while in the Navy, the point was not that I was prone to insubordination. I was, but only in the face of dangerous incompetence. The point was that I had some really poor leaders, and I refused to follow them blindly. That is the moral for you followers. Never, ever, put your blind trust in anyone. Judas goats can lead you to the slaughterhouse with good intentions, or they can lead you to the slaughterhouse with evil intentions, but the end result is still the same. You end up in the slaughterhouse or up a creek without a paddle. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm sure I would have made a fine dictator, albeit one with a short life expectancy. But wait, there's more, as the man on TV says. In Part 2, The Search for Uncommon Sense, are my thoughts on various issues that we run into every day. I had published them in my blog, Musings from a Moderate, that was posted on the internet in 2010 and has since been discontinued and deleted. If you have found any nuggets of wisdom at all so far, read on at your own risk. It might result in enlightenment, or you may just get a sour stomach. Subjects included are politics, finance, the economy, healthcare, fair tax, Wall Street reform, immigration, the ongoing recession, and, more importantly, the possible solutions for all of these problems. Remember, you may come up with different solutions to the problems discussed. That's all right, as long as you arrive at them with reasoned thought based on your analysis of empirical evidence and not anecdotal evidence, hyperbole, or opinion. Don't trust what I say, but check it out for yourself. and use that strategical, analytical, and ethical thinking you just listened to, and you'll be on the right track regardless of your conclusions. Larry will now take a break from creating this video representation of his book. He will take up part 2 if part 1 gets enough viewers or interest. Please subscribe to my channel so you will be notified when part 2 is published. P.S. Oh yeah, in the unlikely event that you haven't learned anything new, as I promised at the beginning of the book, here is an interesting side note about the destroyer that I served on in the Navy. The USS Theodore E. Chandler DD-717 was named after a WW2 admiral named Theodore E. Chandler, who was killed in a Japanese kamikaze attack. Big deal, you say? And now, as the late Paul Harvey would say, for the rest of the story. What is really interesting is that this same Admiral Theodore E. Chandler was a great-grandson of a lady who was the fiancée of John Wilkes Booth, and who also was seen dancing with Robert Todd Lincoln, Abe's son, prior to the assassination of President Lincoln. Wow, I had thought that was a useless tidbit. I just used it, so it must not be all that useless. I've just given conspiracy fans something to think about, and my earlier promise of enlightenment is fulfilled.